I never loved you. You were just a useful idiot with a law degree. Those words, scrawled on the back of divorce papers, hit Chioma like a physical blow as she sat in her freezing Korean prison cell. 3 years. 3 years this brilliant Nigerian woman had sacrificed her freedom, her career, her entire life for a man who had planned her destruction from the moment they met. The beautiful billionaire husband she'd trusted with her heart. He was already remarried to a Korean heiress while she rotted behind bars for his crimes. The loving marriage she'd believed in? Nothing but an elaborate criminal conspiracy with her as the perfect fall guy. But Jae-won made one fatal mistake. He underestimated the fury of a woman who had nothing left to lose and everything to gain from his complete annihilation. Hit subscribe right now if you want to see how she destroys him. Only 2% of viewers actually subscribe. Don't miss what happens next. Watch how this Nigerian lawyer turned his perfect betrayal into his perfect nightmare. But let me show you how a brilliant Lagos attorney became a victim of the most calculated betrayal imaginable. 18 months earlier, the Really Gallery in Lagos hummed with sophisticated energy as Nigeria's cultural elite admired contemporary African art under warm, golden lighting. Chioma Okafor moved through the crowd with the quiet confidence of someone who'd earned her place in every room she entered, a 28-year-old tax attorney whose sharp mind and University of Lagos law degree had already made her one of the city's most respected legal minds. The brushstrokes here remind me of traditional Korean calligraphy, a voice said behind her, speaking perfect English with an elegant accent that made her turn. She found herself face to face with a man studying the same Jadika Akunyili Crosby piece that had captured her attention. Tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored navy suit that whispered expensive rather than shouted it, he possessed the understated elegance that spoke of real wealth. You know Korean calligraphy? Chioma asked, intrigued despite herself. His smile could have powered half of Lagos. Kim Jae-won. And you're thinking most Korean businessmen in Lagos are here for oil contracts, not art appreciation. Chioma Okafor. You're not wrong. She studied his face, noting how he looked directly into her eyes with genuine interest. What brings someone with artistic sensibilities to Nigeria? Beauty transcends borders, he said simply. Like intelligence. When he attempted broken Yoruba, badly mispronouncing Ava, while trying to compliment her dress, Chioma laughed and responded in fluent Korean, your pronunciation needs serious work. Jae-won's eyes widened with genuine amazement. Where did you learn to speak like that? University of Lagos has an excellent East Asian Studies program. I specialized in international corporate law. She tilted her head with professional curiosity. Korean chaebols fascinate me from a legal perspective. And what's your conclusion about us chaebols? Chioma considered carefully. Powerful family empires built on tradition, loyalty, and carefully guarded secrets. Something flickered across his expression, too quick to read, but she caught it. You see deeply, Chioma Okafor. She had no idea this charming stranger would destroy her life. They talked until the gallery closed, their conversation flowing effortlessly between art, law, and the complexities of building businesses across continents. Jae-won listened with an intensity that made her feel like the most fascinating person in the world, asking thoughtful questions about her work helping international corporations navigate Nigeria's complex financial landscape. I'd like to see you again, he said as they reached her modest Honda Civic. I'm in Lagos for another week. I'd like that too, she heard herself say, surprised by how much she meant it. The following week unfolded like a romantic movie she'd never dared imagine starring in. Jae-won took her to restaurants she'd only read about, flew her to Abuja for dinner because he wanted to see the presidential villa at sunset. Unlike other wealthy men she'd met, he didn't perform his success, he wore it like a comfortable garment, present but unassuming. My company is expanding into West Africa, he told her over dinner at Sky Restaurant, Lagos sparkling below them like scattered diamonds. We need someone who understands both cultural and legal landscapes. Someone like you. Her pulse quickened, but her lawyer's instincts engaged immediately. What kind of company? Tech investments. We identify promising startups and help them scale globally. He reached across the table, his hand warm over hers. I'm offering you a position, Chioma. But more than that, I'm hoping you'll consider building something together. Not just business. Life. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. Rich men's promises are written in water, my daughter. But real love, that's written in stone, Chioma had replied, and she believed it then. 2 months later, Jae-won rented the entire top floor of the Eco Hotel. Hundreds of white roses and flickering candles transformed it into something magical. When he dropped to one knee overlooking Lagos Harbor, the diamond ring catching city lights like captured stars, Chioma felt like the luckiest woman alive. Marry me, Chioma. Come to Seoul. Help me build an empire while I give you the world. Looking into his eyes, seeing what she believed was her future reflected there, she whispered, yes. The Seoul wedding was beyond her wildest dreams. The Grand Hyatt transformed into a garden of African and Korean flowers, white and gold everywhere, traditional drummers from Lagos mixing with Korean ceremonial music. Media called her the African princess, and for one shining day, she felt like royalty walking through a fairy tale. But their fairy tale was actually the setup for the perfect crime. If you're loving this story, make sure to subscribe to Mystic Tale by Luna for more incredible tales of love and betrayal. Seoul felt like living inside a beautiful, Arctic museum. Their Gangnam penthouse overlooked the Han River, filled with art worth more than most countries' GDP, floor-to-ceiling windows offering views that magazines featured on their covers. Yet somehow, Chioma felt herself shrinking daily, becoming smaller in a world designed to dwarf individual humanity. The Kim family business sprawled across continents like a financial octopus, a complex web of subsidiaries, partnerships, and investments that defied simple explanation. Chairman Kim, Jae-won's father, controlled it all from his glass tower office, running the empire with an iron fist wrapped in silk diplomatic gloves. The family welcomed Chioma with polite smiles and careful distance, treating her like an interesting acquisition rather than beloved family member. Korean culture takes time, Jae-won assured her when she mentioned feeling isolated in their marble palace. You're brilliant, you'll find your place. I feel like I'm living in a beautiful museum, Chioma replied, but I'm just another exhibit. But Jae-won himself was changing in ways that chilled her. 18-hour workdays became his new normal. Weekend trips to Hong Kong, Singapore, Tokyo stretched longer each time, leaving her alone with housekeepers who spoke only Korean and treated her with professional politeness that felt like emotional permafrost. She thought isolation was her biggest problem. She was wrong. During one of his mysterious absences, Chioma explored their home more thoroughly. Most rooms welcomed her freely, but one third-floor office remained perpetually locked. When she asked about it, Jae-won's answer never varied: family business documents. Nothing that would interest you. But Chioma was a lawyer, and locked doors raised questions that demanded answers. The key hid behind a family photo in his desk drawer, the same photo where he'd claimed to love her unconditionally. The room beyond contained filing cabinets, multiple computer screens, and walls covered with financial charts showing money flows between dozens of companies she'd never heard of. Her legal training kicked in immediately as she examined the documents. Shell companies in the Cayman Islands. Swiss bank transfers. Invoices for services too vague to be legitimate, consulting fees that looked suspiciously like bribes. Her blood turned to ice as the pattern emerged: money laundering on a massive, international scale. But wait until you see what she discovers in that locked room. When Jae-won returned that evening, she waited in their pristine living room with document copies spread across their glass coffee table like evidence in a trial. What is this? Her voice cut through the silence like a surgeon's blade. For the first time since she'd known him, Jae-won looked genuinely afraid. Chioma, you shouldn't have. Don't. Her lawyer's voice could have frozen fire. I know what I'm looking at. This is criminal financial activity. He sat heavily on their white leather couch, suddenly looking older than 35. It's not what you think. Then explain it to me. Some of my father's business associates aren't always clean. But we need their partnerships to compete in Asian markets. The money gets moved around to satisfy government inspections, make everything look legitimate. That's literally the definition of money laundering. Chioma, please. He reached for her hands, but she pulled back. You don't understand how Korean business works. Everyone does this. It's survival. Not everyone drags their wives into it. You're not dragged into anything. You're my wife. You're protected. But looking at him, really looking, Chioma realized the charming man from Lagos might have been an elaborate performance. She was suddenly unsure which version was real, which promises had been genuine. I need time to think. Actually, Jae-won's voice carried new urgency. There is something I need. Legal help. Despite every instinct screaming warnings, she asked, what kind? Paperwork. Financial transfers needing legal signatures. You're qualified for international law, just making everything official. Show me the documents first. I trust you completely, he said, producing a manila folder. You're the only person I trust with this. The papers looked routine initially, corporate filings, transfer authorizations, compliance forms written in legal language designed to obscure rather than clarify. But reading carefully with her trained eye, Chioma realized what she was being asked to do. These documents would make her the legal guarantor for financial transfers worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Her signature would authorize money movement through the same shell companies she'd discovered upstairs. Jae-won, I can't sign these. Why not? You're my wife. We're building this together. Because this makes me criminally liable for money laundering. His expression hardened in ways she'd never seen, revealing something cold and calculating beneath the loving husband mask. Chioma, my family's business relationships are complicated. Sometimes we need legal cover for legitimate transactions that might look questionable to outsiders. Legal cover? The words tasted like poison in her mouth. You want me to be your criminal accomplice? I want you to trust me like I trusted you with my family's secrets. The manipulation was so smooth, so perfectly executed, that for a moment she almost believed him. Almost signed papers that would destroy her life forever. She signed those papers believing love would protect her. She had no idea she'd just signed her prison sentence. It came at dawn 3 weeks later like a military operation designed to shatter lives. The Korean Financial Supervisory Service hit their penthouse with overwhelming force. Black SUVs surrounded their building like sharks circling prey. Tactical teams with automatic weapons moved through their home with practiced efficiency, treating their sanctuary like a crime scene. Kim Chioma, Detective Park announced in formal Korean, you are under arrest for international money laundering, embezzlement, and financial fraud involving $847 million. Jae-won stood in their marble foyer wearing yesterday's clothes, his face a mask she no longer recognized. As handcuffs bit into her wrists, Chioma searched his eyes desperately for some sign of the man she'd married, some hint that this was a terrible mistake he would fix. Jae-won? Her voice broke like a child's. Tell them. Tell them this is wrong. He looked through her like she was invisible, like she'd never existed. Your husband departed for Singapore 16 hours ago, Detective Park said, tightening the restraints with professional indifference. Funny how he knew to leave before we arrived. The manila folder hit the floor, spilling papers covered with her signatures across Italian marble-like accusations. Her legal seal authorizing transfers she'd been manipulated into approving. Her name on documents that would send her to prison while her husband sipped champagne in a country with no extradition treaty. He's my husband. Chioma screamed as they dragged her toward the door. He wouldn't do this to me. But even as the words left her mouth, she knew she was lying to herself. But the arrest was just the beginning of his masterpiece of betrayal. The trial was a symphony of legal manipulation orchestrated with surgical precision. Korean prosecutors presented evidence painting Chioma as the criminal mastermind behind an international fraud ring. Her signatures on every crucial document. Her legal expertise used to structure shell companies. Her Nigerian background exploited to paint her as a foreign interloper who'd infiltrated a respectable Korean family. Jae-won's lawyers painted him as the innocent victim, a naive heir seduced by a calculating gold digger who'd used his love to access family wealth. They had recordings of their conversations, carefully edited to make her sound manipulative and mercenary. Photos of her examining financial documents, taken by hidden cameras in their own home. The defendant clearly used her legal training and her husband's affection to orchestrate this elaborate scheme, the prosecutor declared with theatrical precision. She exploited cultural differences and language barriers to manipulate documents she knew he couldn't fully understand. It was brilliant. It was thorough. It was a complete inversion of reality. Chioma's court-appointed lawyer advised pleading guilty for a reduced sentence. Fight this and you'll get life imprisonment. Take the deal and you'll be out in 3 years. But I'm innocent. Innocence is a luxury you can't afford, Mrs. Kim. Your husband's testimony will bury you. You think his testimony was the worst betrayal? Wait until you see what he does next. Jae-won took the witness stand wearing a perfectly tailored black suit and an expression of wounded betrayal that would have won him acting awards. He spoke in broken English, playing up language barriers that had never existed between them, claiming confusion about legal documents he'd manipulated her into signing. I loved her, he said, his voice cracking with practiced emotion. I trusted her with everything. She said the papers were routine business documents. I didn't understand, my English is not good for legal language. Chioma watched from the defendant's table as her husband, the man who'd spoken perfect English in Lagos, who'd quoted Shakespeare while proposing, destroyed her life with calculated precision. She took advantage of my feelings, Jae-won continued with Oscar-worthy performance. I see now she never loved me. Only my family's money. The judge sentenced her to 3 years in Seoul Women's Correctional Facility. Prison was a concrete hell of overcrowded cells, language barriers, and the constant knowledge that she'd been betrayed by the person she'd trusted most completely. Korean inmates treated her with suspicion and hostility. Guards spoke to her like she was subhuman, their contempt palpable in every interaction. Every day was a battle just to survive emotionally and physically. Jae-won visited exactly twice in the first month, brief, stilted affairs conducted under the watch of prison guards and recording devices that made genuine conversation impossible. I'm working on an appeal, he said during his last visit, refusing to meet her eyes. My lawyers think we can get your sentence reduced. When can I call my family? Soon. These things take time in Korea. But time revealed truth with brutal clarity. Jae-won's visits stopped entirely. His phone calls became formal letters from lawyers. The promised appeal never materialized. Her family's desperate attempts to visit were blocked by immigration bureaucracy that seemed deliberately designed to keep them away. 6 months into her sentence, a lawyer she'd never met delivered divorce papers with the cold efficiency of a business transaction terminating an unwanted contract. Mr. Kim requests that you sign these promptly, the lawyer said in English so perfect it mocked her husband's courtroom performance. All assets will remain with the Kim family. You will receive no financial settlement. Chioma stared at papers that ended her marriage with corporate language devoid of any human emotion. No explanation. No apology. Just legal clauses that erased her from Jae-won's life like she'd never existed, like their love had been nothing more than an elaborate business arrangement. But even from prison, she was about to discover the full scope of his plan. That night in her cell, she finally understood the complete scope of his betrayal. She hadn't been his wife, she'd been his escape plan. A foreign woman with legal expertise who could be manipulated into taking responsibility for crimes she didn't commit, then discarded when she was no longer useful to the family business. But understanding brought something unexpected, crystalline clarity. And with clarity came the beginning of a plan that would make him pay for every lie, every manipulation, every moment of her stolen life. Prison changed Chioma, but not in the way Jae-won had expected. Instead of breaking her, it forged her into something harder and infinitely more dangerous. She spent 18 months studying Korean law with obsessive focus, building relationships with other inmates who'd been destroyed by powerful men, and quietly gathering evidence that everyone assumed had been buried with her conviction. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source, Kim Min-young, a former Samsung executive serving time for embezzlement who'd been watching Chioma study legal texts with the intensity of someone seeking salvation rather than just education. "You're building an appeal case?" Min-young asked in careful English during recreation time. "Something like that. I know your husband's family. The Kims have used foreign wives as legal shields before. 3 times in the last decade." Chioma's blood stopped moving. "What did you say?" "Japanese woman in 2018. Philippine woman in 2020. Same exact pattern, marry them, use their legal status for complex financial transactions, then abandon them when investigations start. You're number 3. 3 times in the last decade?" "I know your husband's family," Min-young repeated grimly. This was always the plan. That information became the foundation for everything that followed. Working with human rights lawyers who specialized in international cases, Chioma began building evidence that Jae-won's entire relationship with her had been a criminal conspiracy from the very first moment they met. The romantic courtship in Lagos. The marriage proposal. The legal documents he'd manipulated her into signing. All of it was a premeditated plan to create a scapegoat for his family's crimes. But she's about to turn the tables in ways he never saw coming. The case took 2 years to develop, but when it went public, it destroyed everything the Kim family had built over decades. International media coverage was explosive and relentless. Korean chaebol's bride scam exposed. Foreign wives as criminal cover. The modern slavery of love fraud. Chioma's story became a global symbol of how powerful families exploited vulnerable women across cultural and national boundaries, using love as a weapon and marriage as a legal shield. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Recorded conversations proving Jae-won had targeted her specifically for her legal background and Nigerian citizenship. Financial records showing the Kim family had paid for private investigators to research her life in Lagos before their supposedly chance meeting. Email chains discussing in clinical detail how to manipulate the Nigerian woman into signing documents she wouldn't fully understand. Target acquired, read one email from Jae-won to his father. Legal background perfect for complex transfers. Cultural isolation will ensure compliance. Korean prosecutors, embarrassed by international attention and pressure from women's rights organizations, reopened Chioma's case with new urgency and thoroughness. The original conviction was overturned within 6 months, with the court issuing a formal apology for the miscarriage of justice. But Chioma's vindication came with an even sweeter revelation: Jae-won's carefully crafted plan had backfired spectacularly. While he'd been in Singapore thinking he was safe from Korean law, Interpol had been building a case against him using the same evidence he'd used to frame her. The man who'd thought he was untouchable found himself arrested at Changi Airport, facing extradition to Korea for charges that carried a minimum 20-year sentence. Justice is finally coming, but her revenge isn't complete yet. Human rights lawyers presented evidence of a systematic pattern spanning years. 3 foreign wives, 3 destroyed lives, hundreds of millions in laundered money. The Japanese woman had committed suicide. The Philippine woman had disappeared entirely. Only Chioma had survived to tell the story. This represents the systematic exploitation of foreign women as unwitting accomplices in international financial crimes, declared the lead prosecutor. The Kim family used marriage as a weapon and love as a trap. On the day of Chioma's release, she walked out of Seoul Women's Correctional Facility into camera flashes and reporters' questions, but she ignored all of it. Her focus was entirely on the woman waiting beside a black sedan, her mother, who'd flown from Lagos the moment she'd heard about her daughter's vindication. "My daughter," her mother whispered, embracing her with arms that felt like home and healing. "You survived." "More than survived, Mama," Chioma replied in Yoruba, her voice carrying a strength that prison couldn't break. "I won." 6 months later, Chioma opened her law firm in Lagos, specializing in international fraud cases involving romantic manipulation. Her first client was the sister of the Japanese woman who'd been Jae-won's victim before her. Her second was a friend of the Philippine woman who'd disappeared. Together, they were building cases against not just the Kim family, but an entire network of wealthy families who used foreign wives as legal shields for criminal activity. The practice was more widespread than anyone had imagined, spanning multiple countries and countless victims. 3 foreign wives united to expose an international criminal network, read the headline in The Guardian. Nigerian lawyer leads fight against love fraud exploitation. Jae-won sent exactly one letter from his Korean prison cell, a handwritten note asking for forgiveness and claiming he'd always loved her, that the family had forced him into the scheme against his will. Chioma never opened it. Some lies didn't deserve the dignity of acknowledgement. Some betrayals break you. Others teach you that your strength was always greater than their lies. Chioma had learned the difference, and she would spend the rest of her life making sure other women learned it too. Love had nearly destroyed her. But justice? Justice had set her free and given her a purpose greater than anything she'd ever imagined. If this story of betrayal and ultimate justice moved you, make sure to subscribe to Mystic Tale by Luna and hit that notification bell. We bring you the most emotionally powerful stories that will stay with you long after the video ends. What would you have done in Chioma's situation? Let us know in the comments below, and share this video with someone who needs to hear that no betrayal, no matter how devastating, has the power to destroy your true strength. Your story could be next.